Hey guys, in this session, we are going to be walking through a demo that demonstrates the self-healing as well as auto-scaling capabilities of the VIP AuthHub authentication services that is running on the SSP platform. What is really neat about AuthHub is that because it is cloud native, it is built on cloud native architecture, it is able to harness some of the, or rather all of the capabilities that cloud native architecture provides. And one of that is the auto scaling as well as self-healing capability. So I'll go through some building blocks and fundamentals of how this is functioning, and then we will run a load test and go through the demo. The load test runs for an extended period of time for around 25 to 30 minutes. And I will pause the video once the load test starts to run, watch a little bit, and then so that the overall video length is not too large. Okay. So as you can see, we are looking at a display which shows the policies that are in place for auto scaling. And HPA stands for horizontal pod auto scaling. There are a couple policies which are defined here. And I'll walk through a specific policy. For instance, the dev SSP AZ server HPA. There are targets, min pods, max pods, and replicas. Replicas indicate what is the current state of the number of pods that are active or are running, and it shows 1. Max pods is 10, min pods is 1. When load is experienced in this infrastructure, the metrics gets collected, and there is a specific targets which is specified, indicating what is the threshold and what is the current utilization or usage. So for instance, for SSP factor HPA, the current utilization is 1%. There is no load going in this lab environment right now. And the threshold or the target is set to 25%. This indicates that as load increases above 25% to start to auto scale. And in this case, it can auto scale up to 5 pods. For this demo, we have the auth manager and AZ server set to scale to 10 pods and have left some of the other in a lab default mode. So I'll go into one of the policies for the horizontal pod auto scaling. And focus on the spec section. What we saw on the other screen is configured here, which specifies that the metric that is being monitored is CPU with an average utilization of 25% as the target. A minimum replica is set to 1 and a maximum replica is set to 10. There are other parameters that by default are not displayed but can be configured. For instance, when there is cooldown, how does it cool down? Does it bring down the number of pods? Does it keep it pinned up? When it brings it down, how long should it wait? For instance, the default waiting period is 5 minutes. before it will start to cool down and bring down the number of replicas, etc. Let's look at the actual pods. I believe I have it running right here in a watch command, and I have removed some of the other pods that are not of interest. And so we can see dev SSP auth manager, a single instance, which is running, dev SSP AZ server, a single instance, which is running among some of the other services, which is also running. We are also going to be monitoring how or the different services behave as the load test progresses, and we'll see a spike in the amount of the latency that it takes for a service to process a request. And also we will see how it stabilizes and is able to auto scale. So the load test that we are going to be running is we are going to simulate logging in through this demo application. So we simulate logging in with the VIP AuthHub. We log in and then click on user info, and we have some user information that gets displayed. And then we log out. And for this transaction, we already see there's some metric that has popped up. The factor and the AZ server, auth manager, they are showing up on the Grafana dashboard. We're going to start the load test. And let's see. Just give it a minute or so, and we'll start seeing kubectl. Oh, we already see the targets. The current utilization is 81% on SSP Auth Manager. And we are seeing requests coming in. And the latency has gone up to 1,000 milliseconds for the Auth Manager service. So within a couple minutes, let me put this in a watch so we can continue to monitor. For some reason, it's echoing twice. What we notice is the number of replicas has already started to grow. So for the dev SSP Auth Manager, there are 6 replicas. For AZ server, there are 8 replicas. SSP Factor, there are 3 replicas that are starting. And I'll go to another screen. What we see here, we are watching the events in this screen, and we see a lot of probe failed. I'll explain that in a second. Let me just do, if I do a get pods, we see a lot of instances of Auth Manager or AZ server that are listed, and one of them is running, and this has been running. This is showing since last 10 days it's running. Some of the other pods that have just come up are 87 seconds old, and we see a 0 of 1, not a 1 of 1. This pod is not yet started. The events that we are seeing of probe failed are associated with the pods that are in the process of coming up. There is a health check for liveliness and readiness, which makes sure not to make itself be available for servicing traffic. And once it is healthy, then we will see this ready state to be 1 of 1, as well as those messages are going to stop coming associated with the specific pod. So let's see, we have, okay, right here. We have a watch already going on for a couple of the Auth Manager pods have come up. A couple are still in the process of coming up. It takes, what we have noticed is around 2.5 to 3 minutes for the some of the services to come up. All of the AZ server nodes are up. SSP factor, we still have 2 nodes that are in the process of coming. Let's look at our dashboard. We also see number of pods and the CPU utilization that is associated with the various pods listed here that has been spawned up for the different servers, AZ server, Auth Manager, SSP factor. And this is still going on. We have 2 more pods that are not yet ready for Auth Manager and 2 for the SSP factor. So what is happening as the load continues to be, the persistent load is going on. Even right now for SSP Auth Manager, the target which was set up 25%, and the current utilization is much higher. It was 35, 93. So this is going to scale up even further. It will go from 8 to higher because, yep, it went up to just 10 right now. Because the computation, the current utilization is still high. Let's take a look at this. Yeah. AZ server couple coming up. Oh, this is an old view. This is not the, we had many of them already up. Okay, so we see Auth Manager, another one, 43 seconds. This is 48 seconds. There are a couple other AZ server that also spawned. It is up to the max replicas that have been spawned. Once all of these are in a started state, within like once all the services are running within a minute or 2, the latency would stabilize. We'll see. We already see a downward trend as more pods are taking the load, logging into the authentication service to access this application. So what is happening is, because of this auto scaling capability, we haven't gotten into a situation where the load cannot be serviced. The number of replicas for the application, which is servicing authentication, has gone up. It stabilizes within a couple of minutes and then is able to take the incoming load. Let's see. Still not fully up. And let's look at the metrics. This is still high. So we're pushing quite some load intentionally for this demo to really get all the replicas revved up. Again, 10 is not a limit. You could set it to other higher numbers. And really in a production environment, depending on what the loads are, this could be much higher. It would only scale up to what it needs to be. The algorithm that it works on is it determines what the threshold is and the current value, and then it divides that. For instance, it will, if it's 50% and 25%, there's a factor of 2. Whatever the current number of pods is available, it then multiplies by that. So as it grows, when it in its growing state, it is able to exponentially bring up the number of replicas. Okay, now the load test has gone down. It's the latency, which is averaging 5 minute. So the other thing is what we're seeing is a 5-minute view aggregated over, right now I have it set to a minute. So this is still seeing something from the aggregation is for the last 60 seconds of what the latency is. Let's try to log into the application while this load test is going on. We have all replicas, I believe, are up. Yep, all replicas are up. There's nothing that is in a intermediate coming up state, and we see the pattern that the latency is going down. So what is the actual user experience when someone is trying to log in? Okay, that was within very acceptable range of, and we are in. And so we can go in and we are able to navigate the page. So when we started to push load, it went really high and then stabilized. And then as all services dynamically scaled up, the actual load is getting distributed and the latency as a result has come down. I'm going to pause this and let the load test complete and then come back to see what is the behavior after the completion of the load test. What we expect is that once the load test is complete, approximately after 5 minutes, it will start to ramp down the number of pods because that's the default cooling period. Okay, we just concluded the load test. There's some transactions that are still going on. The current utilization, as we can see, is falling. It's now at 16% for Auth Manager, 15% CPU utilization of AZ Server and Factor, and then this is significantly going down now. But what we will notice is that the number of replicas is still, it has not started to shut down yet. It watches that over some time. Also, notice I just hit enter that we are not getting that unhealthy warning as the liveliness check and the readiness check was ongoing to make sure that a specific pod that was being brought up comes up. Some other things to notice in the event, and I'm scrolling fast here, are messages like these: deployment, dev, SSP, AZ server, scaled up, replica set to 10 from 8. New size 10, reason CPU use, resource utilization. Where is the yep. When we look at the pods, this is the earliest pod is around 16 minutes. So around 21 minutes or 22 minutes is when we would start seeing this ramping down. Going to pause it again and show how it looks once it starts to ramp down. Okay, in 2 to 3 minutes, it should start to ramp down. I see the age of some of the pods, 18 minutes. We are not seeing much CPU utilization on the AZ server factor or auth manager that we were seeing, which is scaled up still, 10 replicas. No, this is the previous one. I'm going to change this to 15 minutes. So this is showing when it went to 5-minute aggregate to this was 1200 milliseconds latency, and then it came down to 500 milliseconds. And we are also seeing the CPU spike that happened for various pods, and then it came down. Okay, deleted pods. So some action is happening here. So we see some like the number of pods have come down. Some were deleted. We come back here and take a look. The SSP AZ server, which was pinned at 10, now it's 6. And the auth manager from 10 went down to 7, and it will rapidly now come down after a couple more assessments of the current state. Again, if we look at, okay, it looks like 2 instances of auth manager, 1 AZ server, it has already come down. 2 and 1, and then it will go all the way to 1 and 1 to the min replicas, because the target utilization is the threshold utilization. And for this lab, we had artificially deflated this to 25% to force it to really ramp up. We would want to potentially keep it at 60%, 70%, or depending on what the applications, how the application behaves within the container, and measure that to set these thresholds. So what this really is showing is so there's no more load. That the AuthHub infrastructure, which is providing authentication services on this cloud native platform, brings enormous capability of taking the load and scaling dynamically to preserve the user experience. Also going to run a quick demo on the self-healing part. And for instance, I'll take AZ server. Oh, I see Auth Manager has 2 instances here. Does it have 2? Yep, it still has 2. This has not completely scaled down to 1. But the AZ server is down to the minimum number of pods. In a production environment, you would never have just one pod that is servicing a service. There would be more for a redundancy perspective, and these pods are an actual cluster node. They're distributed to take in case there is an outage of a node where services are deployed, that either the same service is available through another pod on another node, or in this case, when I'm going to, let's see, AZ server, I'm going to force a deletion of this AZ server. Delete pod. Which one was that? Dev SSP AZ server. Dev SSP AZ server. Just deleted it. And right away, there is another AZ server container that is creating, that just got created. That was running for the last 10 days that I just deleted. And if we look at this, this was ending with a QHMBB that was deleted. And the underlying infrastructure detected that the specification requires one minimum pod in this lab configuration to be up and running. Because that state changed and was no longer valid when the pod was deleted, the underlying infrastructure automatically spawned another new pod, and it is running. This takes about 2.5 minutes to come up. The purpose of this demo is to, when there are faults that are introduced within the ecosystem in this cloud architecture, the capability, the architecture is built to handle that and is able to self-heal and bring the services back up to normal without end user intervention or action. And that concludes the demo. I hope you guys liked it.